Welcome back to Age of Empires 2. Last time, we learnt how to, well, train the troops in training the troops. This time, well, remember last time they said we'd need more advanced weapons and armour in order to fight the English on equal footing? That's what we're going to cover now. So, we've learned how to move an army, how to gather resources to support an army, how to actually build up an army. Now we learn how to upgrade an army.
Rumours creep in from the south of a giant who leads the forces of Scotland, his great sword driving through earth and man and horse alike. If this mythical knight can hold the English advance, it will give us time to develop the arms we need. Even now our smiths are forging swords and fletchers are making arrows and crossbow bolts. English use very advanced weapons and armor. To win, you will need to advance to the Feudal Age and repel the English raids. You're going to need to research some technologies of your own to increase the strength of your civilization. For example, researching Loom makes your villages harder to kill. To research Loom, click the town center, then click the Research Loom button.
Okay, it took me a while before I actually got a chance to speak there, but anyway, we start off with some militia already assembled, a barracks already built, quite a few well, that's a lot of houses. We have enough to support 35 population, that's more than we'll need for this scenario, and a whole bunch of villages, and hey, they've actually included some girls this time. That's nice, but anyway, we also have a couple of sheep down there, which will become important in a little bit. But first, click the town centre, and you'll notice there's a new button that's appeared below the Create Villager button. This there is Loom. It only costs 50 gold. This is our first technology. Now, technologies are basically just, well, things you can research that they're kind of like upgrades you can purchase, basically. As the description here says, this makes your villagers harder to kill. Basically, it improves their hit points and their armor. Now, I'll explain what normal and pierce armor means in a little bit, but suffice to say, like the hammy Scottish guy said, this makes your villagers harder to kill. It's also extremely cheap and one of the only technologies available to you in the Dark Age, so it is recommended that you research this quite early. You can't really go wrong with it.
Good. Researching technology costs resources, but improves your civilization. While you're researching, you can put your villagers to work and use your military units to explode. In addition to gathering food in forage bushes, villagers can herd sheep or hunt deer for food.
Well, I think I saw a deer over there, but it seems to have gone away. Anyway, hi deer. Hi other deer. Hi other deer. Oh wait a minute, okay, he's got one. Let's just go ahead and get from that. Because if you kill a deer and you don't actually gather from it immediately, its meat will start rotting and basically you'll get less and less food from it if you actually get it later. And in terms of herding sheep, we can right-click sheep in these villages.
Become available when you advance to a new age. To advance from the Dark Age to the Feudal Age, you need 500 food.
So yes, we're going to need a lot of food to advance to the next age. We're actually almost there, but anyway. Villagers will herd sheep to the nearest gather point, and we'll kill them and start getting food off of them. Yeah, not that nice for the poor sheep, but hey, what are you going to do? Now, you can also fish for food, as I may have mentioned before. These fish that are called shore fish, you can actually gather from them with villagers. And I really like the animation here of them actually casting the net in and reeling it back. It's just kind of cool. Anyway, unfortunately, he needs quite a while before he goes back to the town centre, but we're almost at the requisite amount of food. You are not doing anything, so you go hunt deer.
And now you have enough food to advance to the Feudal Age. However, you also need 2 buildings from your current age. You already have a barracks, so now have your villagers build a mill. The mill is a drop-off point for food, so build it next to your food source.
So yes, as you can see, we've got enough food to advance to the next stage, but yes, there is another requisite for advancing in age, and oh hey, some bushes. Oh, and some more sheep. That's cool. So yeah, there is a nice benefit to exploring. Of course, we seem to be completely fenced off by forests, but I guess this is a tutorial. What can you really complain about? So, yes, we need to build a mill. A mill is a drop-off point for food. Now, you'll notice that these hunters over here, they need to carry their deer meat quite a way back to the town centre. We can fix that by building a mill here. This will mean that after this thing goes up, we'll be able to drop off our food here as opposed to the town centre. This is introducing the concept of resource drop-off points. Now this is something I will admit I am very glad a lot of later real-time strategy games improved on. Because yes, in this game, every resource has a different gather point, basically, that you've got to build separately. So mill only works for food and a few other things.
Now you can advance from the Dark Age to the Feudal Age. Click your town centre, then click the Advance to Feudal Age button.
But yeah, you'll notice that we have a mill. Now, later on, a mill will help you with farming, but for the time being, we don't really need to start farming just yet, so yeah, we've got more than enough resources to go to the Feudal Age, so we can just click this. So yes, it requires 2 Dark Age buildings. Now, I'm not sure if an outpost counts. Really, mills and other things are only option. Now, you'll see here there are also mining camps, which is a drop-off point for gold and stone, and lumber camps, which, well, that should be pretty obvious, drop-off point for wood. Yes, you need separate drop-off points for every resource. It is a little annoying, but you'd kind of get used to it. We also have a dock. That will become important later, but let's just say that on water-based maps, you really do want to... hey, that guy's carrying his fish back to the mill instead of the town centre. Nice. At least we sped that up. Anyway, on water-based maps, the second building you should build to advance to the next age probably should be a dock, because it will be really useful later on. They've almost run out of sheep, so I'll just give them some new sheep to work with. But, yes, advancing in age, that is one of the main gimmicks of this game. You'll find there really isn't that much to do in the Dark Age, and, yeah, basically, humanity has totally regressed since the fall of Rome, and, yeah, the Dark Ages were not exactly all that pleasant for anyone. But, we can advance to the Feudal Age, where we'll be able to do a lot more stuff. Advancing an age is generally quite expensive and takes some time, and it requires you to have built a certain number of buildings. But doing so is... Did that guy just punch that sheep to death? I forgot they did that. Anyway. Doing so, yeah, is totally vital. If you do not advance in age, you're going to get wiped out very, very quickly. So let's advance to the Feudal Age right now. We have way more than enough food.
Good! You're on your way to the Feudal Age.
You'll notice that there's a progress bar up right here where I'm pointing. It says Feudal Age, and you can see that bar there. Now, that progress bar was actually added in the Conqueror's expansion. If you're playing the vanilla Age of Kings version of this game, you won't actually see that. You'll have to actually periodically check your town centre to see how your age advancement is going on. And, hey, look, it's a sneak attack, which is actually going to be totally ineffectual like all of them, because they've only got 3 soldiers, and we've got, like, well, lots more than 3. I can't count. Hey, what are you doing? Are you going after our villagers? Right, I think it's time I showed this off. Notice how the villagers are now firing arrows out of the town centre.
Create some extra militia units at the barracks to replenish your forces.
Did we lose anyone? I don't think we did, but hey, let's just create a couple more militia. We've got the resources for it. Actually, let me just show you something. You can actually cancel any units in the queue before they're created, and their resources will be returned back to you. If you shift-click here, you can create 5 at once. That is very nice to know. They won't all come out at the same time, though, unfortunately. And yep, Town Bell. Very useful when you get raided. I didn't expect to be able to show that off, but it was nice. Come on, Feudal Age. Almost there.
Congratulations! Advancing to the next stage is the best way to improve your civilization. Near the minimap at the lower right corner of the screen is the idle villager button. Click it to locate villagers who are not...
I don't know why they're talking about the idle villager button now.
Now that you're in the Feudal Age, you can upgrade your militia to men-at-arms. Click the barracks, then click upgrade to men-at-arms.
So yes, Advancing to the next age gives your entire civilization a very nice cosmetic makeover, and it makes new stuff become available. In fact, we've actually got a couple of new technologies at the town centre right now. Wheelbarrow, which makes villages more efficient, and Town Watch, which increases the line of sight of all buildings. Those can be kind of useful. We've also got one available at the mill, which is actually not going to help us at this point. But, we don't really need Wheelbarrow at this point, but it's nice to know that's there. You probably will need to know that in regular games, because it can be a very helpful technology to research. But the real one to research is Men-at-Arms. This is an upgrade technology. These apply an upgrade to all units of a certain type. The Men-at-Arms upgrade is an upgrade for the militia. Basically, this means that any existing militia you have will be replaced with Men-at-Arms, and you'll now be able to create Men-at-Arms. Don't worry, they're still exactly the same cost as militia, they're just better in every way. I'd call upgrading almost akin to, I guess, Pokemon Evolution if you want an analogy. It gives a giant stat boost and a cosmetic design change, so very, very useful. Now, we also have the ability to create spearmen, but they're not going to be that useful to us at this point. Well, actually, they probably are, but the Scottish guy doesn't want us to use them now. We also have another technology tracking here, which gives +2 line of sight to all infantry, but let's just go ahead.
Upgrading to man-at-arms will change all your militia units to the more powerful men-at-arms.
Yeah, what he said. You generally want to upgrade your units. Usually every age, an upgrade will become available for most basic types of units. You want to research these, because unupgraded units will very quickly die to upgraded ones. So yeah, make sure you keep your army up to date.
The English are attacking again! Teach them a lesson with your new men-at-arms!
I think they're already doing that themselves. Now, I really want to get rid of that knight before he comes nearby. Town centre, too late. Hey, you! Wow, you won that one-on-one. Very nice.
The English
And
are no match
I
for
believe
your
they're all dead.
warriors.
Yep, they're all dead. Perfect. So, yeah, that went well.
Longshanks has invaded, stormed, and sacked the city of Perth. It's worse. He's captured the fabled Stone of Scone and declared himself King of Scotland. If we cannot bring about a victory in battle soon, then the Scottish armies will be too demoralized to put up any fight at all. If this mythical Scottish giant does exist, I wish he'd get his forces up to Stirling, where we shall next do battle.
Well, that's kind of obvious, considering our next scenario is called the Battle of Stirling. And I always found that, that thing kind of hilarious, because, here in Australia, we actually do have a city called Perth, so was probably named after that place, actually, but, yeah, but anyway, so that's research and technology done. Next time, I'll join you for the Battle of Stirling. This is the real scenario where we put everything we've learned up until this point together. So, I'll see you then. And now it's time for Ye Olde Fact of the Day. Congratulations, your militia are now men-at-arms. Yes, men-at-arms are the next step up in a fighting force, and well, they're probably the first unit you have available that is actually something vaguely resembling a fighting force. The main draw they have over the militia is their significantly increased attack. They're now twice the attack power of a villager, which is a much better improvement than the militia. They have slightly more HP as well, but it's really the massive boost in attack power comparatively that's what you really want here. Not only that, but the upgrade cost to men-at-arms is actually extremely cheap. So, highly recommended that you do this as soon as it's able. You really will need to do this because, trust me, if you try and use militia outside of the Dark Age, you are going to suck horribly. They are very, very terrible compared to the new units available in the Feudal Age, so yep, you really need to keep your army up to date, otherwise you are going to get slaughtered. Men-at-arms, just like militia, are created at the barracks. They're very cheap and relatively fast spawning, and you can produce them in quite large numbers, and they'll form the vast majority of your infantry, I'm pretty sure. Men-at-arms, as you can see there, are effective against skirmishers, camels, and light cavalry. They're really only effective against skirmishers, though, because skirmishers are not effective against anything that isn't archers. We'll talk about skirmishers later. Camels are another dedicated counter unit, so they lose to anything that's not the thing they counter. And light cavalry is kind of interesting, because light cavalry refers to things like, well, we haven't actually seen any light cavalry so far, but suffice to say, knights do tend to beat infantry one-on-one pretty easily. Light cavalry can be quite easily overwhelmed by basic infantry like men-at-arms. Taking them out is not really their forte. Unfortunately, they tend to run before your infantry can really get to grips with them, so they're not really... Basically, men-at-arms are not really, technically speaking, really an anti-light cavalry unit, because the light cavalry will most likely not be stupid enough to take on a horde of men-at-arms on its own. But yes, being relatively slow infantry, they are vulnerable to archers who can shoot them before they get into combat, and anti-personnel siege weapons. Those really do a lot of damage to these things, especially considering that men-at-arms like to stay bunched up when they move. Yeah, anti-infantry catapults can really do a number on them, and we'll see that later on. Also, cataphracts, well, I'll talk about those later. You only have to worry about dealing with them when you're dealing with a very specific civilization, but they're basically a dedicated anti-infantry cavalry unit, and you really want to watch out for them. So basically, your men-at-arms are pretty much a jack-of-all-trades melee infantry unit. That's pretty much all, but they're a lot better than militia, so you want to upgrade them as soon as you can. Now, I actually have forgot to specify the what a lot of these stats mean yet, so I'll just get to talking about them. Armor and pierce armor when it came to the Loom technology that I was talking about earlier, that improves infantry armor and pierce armor, as the description says. What does that mean? Well, if you look here at my unit profile here, where I've got armor, now it says 0/1. The first, and this is how it's presented on the actual unit screen in-game, so that's why I've got it like this. The first number is normal armor. Normal armor reduces damage from melee attacks like swords. The second number is pierce armor. Pierce armor reduces damage from ranged attacks like arrows. So that's basically all you need to know. You might notice that men-at-arms already have, and militia did too actually, 1 pierce armor at base. This was actually added in the Conqueror's expansion pack. Originally they also had 0 in pierce armor to begin with, but they actually increased their pierce armor a little bit to make them at least slightly more resilient against archers. They're still generally not a good choice against mass groups of archers because they'll probably die horribly before they have a chance to close in with them, so they're still pretty bad against archers, but at least they are slightly more resilient in that regard, and a little bit more worth, I guess you get a little bit more value in that they've got 1 extra armor now. So that's basically all I have to talk about men-at-arms. Now it's time for the history lesson. Men who had received weapons training and wore armor of some sort in battle were referred to as men-at-arms. By definition, all knights were men-at-arms, but not all men-at-arms were knights. The class of men-at-arms also included professional fighting men of no nobility called sergeants and knights in training called squires. The armies of feudal lords were divided into 2 distinct groups, the men-at-arms of all classes and the peasant militia. The training fighting men provided the principal fighting power of the army. Men-at-arms on foot fought with swords. This was an effective weapon and helped distinguish the men-at-arms from soldiers of lower social standing like spearmen, skirmishers, and missile troops. Men-at-arms wore armor, usually from head to toe, and were highly trained. They were especially effective against spearmen if they could close onto the spear points. They fought beside dismounted knights under certain conditions, such as castle assaults. During the 100 Years' War, the English often fought dismounted because the French knights usually outnumbered them by a large margin. On the open battlefield, a man-at-arms was at a great disadvantage against a mounted knight. Knights kept a body of men-at-arms on retainer to help maintain local order within the local fief, and to accompany the knight when called up for military service.